Welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight. I'm Alex Armstrong. We're going to look at the front page of The Sun, and joining me now is the former editor of the Sunday Express, David Wooding. David, this is a bombshell story from the Express here. So this Labour MP who's been essentially charging rent to live with their cockapoo. The Sun, I beg your pardon. Would you mind giving us some more details about this story?
Yes, well, this is another expenses story, and it's the MP concerned is Taiwo Owatemi, who's the MP for Coventry North West, and is also a government whip, who voted recently in favour of the £5 billion worth of cuts to benefits and welfare payments.
Wow.
But it seems that she's getting a bit of a benefit of her own, because on top of her £94,000 a year salary, which was approved last week, 2.8% rise, and her expenses, which includes accommodation costs.
Yeah.
He's also claimed £900 in pet rent, so that her pet cockapoo, Bella, can stay with her at her London accommodation.
This is absolutely bonkers. I mean, the public are going to be outraged at this. This is a party that has just decided to cut the welfare bill of this country and potentially hurt some of the poorest people in the country. And we've got an MP claiming expenses on their dog.
Yeah, not only that, everybody's struggling. Everybody who hasn't had benefits cut is struggling with their bills.
Yeah.
We're getting council tax going through the roof. And of course, there's the elderly people who had their winter fuel payment removed. The optics of this are very, very bad. I mean, I've had a little look since this front page dropped at pet tax or pet rent. It's payable if you live in an accommodation where the landlord says you have to pay an extra amount to have a dog living with you. Well, this is a separate home, and she has children and a husband. And I just sort of think, well, if I wanted to bring my pet to live in separate accommodation, I'd pay for it myself. It costs
Quite right.
Usually, the usual bill is about £40 a month maximum. So, I mean, that rate, there's probably 2 years' worth of pet tax here.
Yeah, this is absolutely shocking. Just help myself and the audience understand how this gets through the parliamentary procedure in the first place. Surely someone must be looking at this going, no, you cannot claim expenses for this. How does this stuff like this keep happening? We had the expenses scandal barely not that long ago. Here's a picture of the cockapoo, by the way, if you wanted to see a photo of a very, very happy dog who's living a better life than I am.
Well, if she loves her that much, you could pay the £900 a month, £900 herself to look at.
Quite right. For
goodness sake, I don't object for paying MPs' expenses. They need. I like our MPs to do a good job, and I think funding of them is part and parcel of democracy.
But not their dogs, surely, David.
Yeah. I object to paying for a dog.
Yes.
And I think lots of people will. And of course, there's been a lot written recently about not only MPs' expenses, which of course we had the big scandal years ago. IPSA was set up after that, the Independent Parliamentary Standards Authority, who overlook this. So they clearly have signed this off and say it's OK, because it would have been thrown back. It's all declared, of course. But we've had recently Rachel Reeves taking her family to see a concert on a freebie. She's now apologised for that and said she won't do that again. Keir Starmer having free spectacles, free suits, and his wife, of course. And Angela Rayner, I think, has benefited from some of this. I think in total there's something like £20,000 worth of free clothing taken by some MPs. So, of course, a lot of people just see it as MPs on the take. One rule for them, another rule for the rest of us.
This stuff makes me detest our elected representatives in this country because, at the same time, they're just about to get a record-breaking pay rise again, are they not? At the same time that this country's had to go through an emergency spring budget we were told we were never meant to have. But I'll also just read out a statement here from a Labour Party spokesperson. They've said MPs are required to work in 2 locations and this is a requirement for living in this House. It's the same for many other MPs and has been approved by the Parliamentary Expenses Watchdog. IPSA, the Expenses Watchdog, said on this occasion, IPSA agreed to fund a surcharge but gave incorrect advice as to how it should be described. Interesting choice of language there. We have apologised directly to the MP and are sorry for any confusion. Hey, just touch on this another second more. This is just language, essentially, they're now apologising because they got the language wrong. This is bonkers.
It is. I mean, yes, MPs are required to live in 2 locations, but I don't think the dogs are.
Sorry, say that again for me.
Dogs aren't.
Dogs aren't, right, yes, you're right.
But the dogs aren't. No.
Yeah, quite right. I mean, there's that. I just, this is the sort of stuff British people detest. They don't want to see their politicians abusing the system. At the end of the day, we, the taxpayers, are funding that at the tune of their massive 90 grand a year salaries now. And I'm sure there's a good argument to say that politicians should be paid more and we'll get higher quality people. But I mean, 90 grand a year is a pretty good salary these days. So this Labour MP, what department does she work? Is she in the Treasury? I haven't heard of her.
She's a government whip.
Government whip, beg your pardon.
She's one who... one part of the job is keeping MPs in line, making sure they behave themselves, vote through the right lobbies and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Perhaps don't bring the party into disrepute even.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'd actually really like to bring in my panel here at the moment as well, as they are eager to go on this topic. We haven't got very long, but we might come back to it after the break. Paul, we'll start with you. I mean, of course, former special advisor to the Labour Party. What do you make of this story?
I mean, I went through the expenses scandal last time round, and this is very triggering. I have to say the defence being mounted here is A, everyone's doing it, and B, it's within the rules, and that does not wash at all. What we learned last time was that, the common sense out there is that shouldn't be happening at all. Even if it's in the rules,
yes,
it doesn't matter.
Quite right.
The rules are idiotic and need to be changed. My advice to Taiwo in this situation is actually to pay the money back as well.
Yeah. Peter, IPSA, this government institution, essentially a bureaucracy, it's a really great cover, isn't it, to say that MPs can say, well, we don't get to vote for our salaries. It's done independently. Say, sorry, guys, we can't do anything. It's just a good cover story, isn't it, really?
Down, Rover. Good boy. I'll be invoicing for him. It's an absolute shambles.
Yeah.
It's a nonsense, and it's yet again abuse of, and I say it time and time again, the common people's money.
Yeah. David's on the line, by the way, so you can speak to him if you'd like to. But yes, carry on, Linda.
So, well, anyway, David, this would pay the winter fuel allowance for 3 pensioners. I mean, did this not occur to her at all? The optics of this, at least. Do you think it just didn't occur to her?
Well, you'd think it would. Absolutely right, Linda. If I was Keir Starmer, I'd be sending a message out to all my troops saying, whatever you do, be careful about what you spend your money on, what you claim, because everyone is watching you like a hawk. Now, I get it's difficult for him because there's so many MPs. There's 650 MPs in the House of Commons. So for all the party leaders, that's the problem, keeping them all in line. And there's always going to be somebody who oversteps the mark. But you'd think if you were putting the pen to the paper to claim this, or fingers on the keyboard, as you probably do these days, you'd have second thoughts about whether it's really worth claiming that for the trouble you're going to get if you get spotted.
Quite, Paul.
I just wonder, Dave, do you think this is the thin end of a wedge? Remember last time round, it started with 1 or 2 of these stories popping up. I think it was the Telegraph that broke them. But then it turned out there was an absolute avalanche. And I just wonder whether you think there's more to come.
Well, I mean, the problem nowadays seems to be more of IPSA allowing things through, which the MPs probably shouldn't be claiming. And the other thing you also see is, it was an oversight. I didn't declare something in time, or I thought I was entitled to that. And I just think, really, the MPs should think very, very carefully about what they claim. I mean, you were right what you said earlier, Paul. They've been through this. Have they not learned the lessons of what happened last time?
Yeah.
Final word to you, Peter. Would you like to ask David something very quickly, and we're going to hit a break?
David, if this is just the thin end of the wedge and the excuse finder general can't keep a lid on it, what would you predict? How many would you hazard a guess at?
Oh, gosh, I'd say I always think that they are in a minority, I have to say. I do believe that a lot of MPs join politics for noble reasons, whether they are left or right, because they want to improve. But there are some who just overstep the mark. They get very laid back about what they're doing. My experience has always shown with Labour MPs, they tend to be involved in money, and with the Conservative MPs, it tends to be sleaze and sex. But they've all put their hands in the till at some stage, thinking that they're entitled to it. I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. But as you will know from being a former police officer, ignorance of the law or the rules in this case is not a defence.
David Wooding, there, former director of the Daily Express. Thank you for joining us.